So I made a poll a few days ago asking whether or not you wanted to see a day in the life study with me, something like that, based on my own med school, or if you wanted to see a video on past papers. And it seems that a lot of you guys wanted to see a full guide in how to do past papers, so that's what this video is going to be about. So I'm going to give you guys tips in exactly how to do them, especially because now exams are approaching. All I've been talking about is doing past papers, but I think it's really important to know exactly what you're going to do when you're doing past papers and how to get the most out of them to do well in your exams. But I'm also going to, in this video, so I can go in more detail, I'm going to show you some papers that I did myself, and hopefully from them you can get a bit of an idea in what I recommend, how I did it, and so you can get inspired, and hopefully this makes your practice and your revision a lot better. So I don't want to make this video too long. I just want to give you guys the important things and that's it, so you can go straight back to your revision and you can get that work done. And so before we start, I just want to let you guys know that if you are struggling with your A-levels or your GCSEs and you want a bit more advice in the content itself, I do have a link below where you can get tuition from me one-on-one. If that sounds like something you'd like, click the link down below in the description, especially if you are feeling like you need that extra bit of support and you really have a few topics you just don't understand. Okay, that being said, now let's get on with our past paper advice. Alright, so on the screen right now is my iPad. This is where I did all of my A-level past papers. Back in GCSE, as I mentioned in a previous video, I used to just have the past paper up on my laptop screen and I'd get a blank piece of paper and I'd just write question 1, question 2 and I'd do the questions like that. Genuinely, it doesn't matter how you do past papers as long as you do them, but having this iPad made it a lot easier for me in A-levels because I could see everything all in one place, and even when I was at school I could access all of my past papers, and it's just so much easier for me to manage all of them and search different questions throughout all of them. Right now you're seeing my school page. This is where I had everything from year 12 to 13. So biology, chemistry, maths. I even had some stuff on interviews, BMAT, for my med school applications, but we're not going to worry about those ones. The first thing I want to show you is this little thing here that I made a note of. I got this idea of marking from a YouTuber named Unjaded Jade, so I made this page back at the very start of year 12 because I wanted to establish from the very beginning how I'm going to mark my papers and exactly what the different colors are going to mean. So I will show what this means later on, but with every question I used her 5 different things that could be the reason you got them wrong. So this marks thing over here, as I'll highlight, right, this marks is what I used to understand whether or not a question was due to me just not doing the maths correctly, or me not knowing the answer, or not being able to apply the answer. Okay, here are the different colors, and these different colors mean different things. As you can see, this is what I'd use for every single question when I'd get it wrong. I'd highlight exactly why did I get this wrong, and I'd try and make it one of these colors. So at the end of the paper I can see exactly the distribution of every color, and I can see why I need to do more practice on it. And I'll show you what this means when I actually get into the papers. I have this little bit over here as well because for chemistry there's multiple choice questions, and for those ones I wanted to also have a bit of a layout in exactly what wrong answers meant. So sometimes I'd get a question wrong, but I'd understand exactly on the spot, oh yeah, I made a silly mistake here, I should have put this one, and so that's what this blue one here means. But sometimes I might get a question wrong and I have to search online why I got that one wrong, and then I understand that question. That's where I put the green one. And yellow is I didn't understand the question, then even after getting it wrong I still don't understand the question. That's something I'd have to go to a teacher to and try and get them to explain, because even ChatGPT is not helping or whatever, right? That's what this is. This is how I did my marking for every one of these exam questions, and this is something I'm going to be referring back to every single time. So another thing I want to mention here as well is, especially for something like biology, where sometimes within your block of text some things can be right and some things can completely wrong and deduct marks. So I'll have these highlights as well sometimes where I highlight exactly what phrase was the one that got me a mark and what phrase was the one that made me lose a mark. That's what I have this here as well for. Let's get into the papers themselves. So we're back on this page again. Biology, chemistry, maths, and let's go to chemistry for example. So if I open this up, what I have right now is my 3 main topics. So inorganic over here, organic here, and physical here. Everything's a bit of a mess here as you can see, but it did the job. It organized it enough for me. The important thing we're going to be focusing on today is past papers. So this is the one I'm going to click, and as you can see I have the AS ones, I have the paper 1 to 3. So AS I did back in year 12. Now this is another thing that some people ask me sometimes. When you're in year 12, what do you do for revision? Do you do A-level papers, or do you do AS papers, or like do you focus more on topic questions? I would say year 12, try and just get through as many AS papers as you can, because when you're in year 13 you're very unlikely to do those AS papers. But that being said, if you are in year 13 right now and you're running out of past papers to do somehow, I don't know how that's possible because there's so many, AS papers are really good for additional practice, especially for the year 12 topics. They can again really good questions for them, so I recommend that as well, just to put that out there. Let's go to paper 1, for example. Okay, as you can see, I've got all my different papers here, a very broad range of percentages. So as you can see, automatically the way I've organized it is so clear. I can see exactly what papers are in front of me and which ones I have done and which ones I haven't. Back when I was revising and back when I was doing these papers, I had downloaded every single paper I wanted to do already. So these green squares over here that you can see, they were originally all red because that meant I hadn't done the paper yet. And now, because I've done all of them and I have a percentage and I've got like the marks for all of them, I have changed them all to green because I've done them now. As you can see, there's not many. I haven't done that many paper 1. I remember back in GCSEs, I did quite a few papers for every subject, but just 6 papers for paper 1 across all my revision, it doesn't seem like a lot. And that's because for A levels, you have such long papers that it's more about doing a paper and then focusing as much on topic questions to get those weak topics back up there. Okay, now I'm going to focus exactly on one of these papers here. Let's go into June 2022, for example, paper 1. If we scroll to the top of this, first thing you can see automatically is that I've got this section up here. So whenever I finish a paper, I make it clear every single topic that's within that paper. Now, something that's really useful for chem is that every question has a very distinct topic. Sometimes it's a combination of two. You can tell very clearly what topic it's trying to get to. I've made a note of all of them. By the looks of it, acids and bases is a weaker topic of mine. Just from seeing it, this can tell me, okay, now I've done the paper, I need to do some more revision on acids and bases. Or now what I can do is I can go to question 4, see what went wrong. So I can see that, oh, I did these questions wrong and stuff. And one thing you might realize is you're seeing the same colors that we talked about before that relate to different marking criteria that I talked about right here. Okay, so these colors here, so this one for example here, I've got 2 different marks that I lost. One of them was more application difficulty and one of them was a silly mistake. So it's really important to give yourself the time. Now, one thing that's also important is when you're marking, so when you're going down marking everything, please be as harsh as possible. If it looks like some, maybe you could get the mark here, just don't give yourself the mark, because it's better to ruin that ego of yours and to get yourself a lower mark, because that way you can actually focus more and try and learn the exact ways to answer every question, so you don't have that benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go to a different subject just so you can get an idea of exactly how I do it between the subjects. So let's go to maths, for example, because maths is quite a common A level that people do. Even though I'm only showing A levels here, it's going to be the same process for GCSEs. Because in GCSEs there's a lot more exams and a lot more subjects, it's more about just trying to get through as many papers as possible rather than focusing on one paper so much and then focusing on another paper as much. Because you have loads of different things to spread your attention to, you can't put as much effort into a paper at a time. So it's more about doing the paper, quickly making a note of what you've gotten wrong, and then moving on to the next one for another subject. Once again, same thing. Now I've split them up differently this time. I've got mechanics, pure, and stats. Pure, even though papers 1 and 2 are different papers, they're both the same type of questions. So I just put them together. Let's look at pure then. As you can see, there's quite a few papers here. I've got a few that are black this time and the rest are green. Now the black here means that I went through this paper but not like properly. So as you can see, if I just go through this paper, it's very messy and very I know a lot of these I did with my friends. They weren't like proper sitting down and doing the papers. Now the reason for this, you might be thinking, why would you do this to yourself? These were the very last papers that I did. So these June 2023 papers, I did them literally days before my exam. I would say this is a really important thing as well to make a note of. Save one paper until the day before your exam. For me, I did the 2023 papers day before my exam, and this was like at the very end of your revision after you've done everything. This is going to be like the final check of how well you think you're going to do, and so that's what these papers were for. But the problem is, as you can see with these 2023 ones, I didn't have the time to do all of them. I ended up not having enough time. It wasn't all perfect for me. What I did instead was I flicked through the questions, I looked at them, and I thought if I knew how to do them, and then I looked at the mark scheme to see if that is exactly what the method was. So instead of doing the full question and wasting time, I just went over them. I only did the questions that I thought, oh, maybe I don't really know if I'm gonna get this one right, because I just didn't have the time to do all of it. But if you go to one of the ones that I have completed properly, like the June 2018 paper here, for maths it's very straightforward. You're just doing the questions, and when you get a question wrong, you make a note of it. And I put these all on a Google document, and this Google doc ended up being so long with all these different questions that I had gotten wrong. I'd always go back over these questions and reattempt them to make sure that I knew how to do them, because sometimes there's a few questions within maths where there's a specific trick that you have to remember, and if you forget that trick, you're going to get the question wrong. So that's why you had to kind of refresh yourself on some of these questions so you can remember that, because a lot of the methods within these questions, they repeat. Even though the questions are completely different, the method of them is going to be the same. So that's why it's really important not to only look at papers once. So once you've done a paper, to go back over it multiple times and just make sure that you do still know how to do those questions, especially the more difficult ones. That's what this is for. Now the final thing I want to talk about, and this is a very important thing, And this is a scenario that might apply to you. So if you're right now doing past papers like I've asked you to, and you're doing them again and again daily, and you're realizing that each time you do the paper and each time you mark it, you're not really improving by that much. You need to be at this level and you're just trailing around here and you're not really improving. Sometimes you get better and you get like happy, but then other times you just plummet and then you just don't know how you're not improving and what you need to do. So what do you do in this scenario? Because there's one thing just saying, oh yeah, do past papers. If you're doing them but you're not improving, that's useless. That means you're not actually doing them properly. So what is the problem here? The main problem here, and the thing that you need to fix, is topic questions. Now, it is so important to be doing past papers. That's what this video is entirely about. But you have to remember that if you want to improve in past papers, the past papers themselves aren't going to make you improve. They will slightly, but it's the topic questions that you do after the papers that will be the reason you improve. The past papers themselves are there to see whether or not you know the information. They're going to test you to make sure that you're in a good level. But if you're not in that level that you want to be, that's where the topic questions come along, and those are going to improve every single aspect of yours. So if you're doing maths, for example, and you did a paper and you're not at the level you want to be, you look at every single topic specifically and you look at the one that's dragging you down the most, and you focus on that topic, and you do as many questions as you can on that topic, and then move back to a past paper the next day. That's the way you're going to improve, because once you familiarize yourself on a topic and you do loads of questions on that topic, all the questions around that topic become so much easier and become very repetitive. And so when you see them again in a paper, it's going to feel like any old question that you found in a topic list. That's hopefully the way you want to see all the questions by the end. If you're doing past papers and you're not doing topic questions alongside, that's also a big mistake, and that's something that you need to be doing as well alongside the past papers that you're doing too. And apart from that, I just want to say best of luck. I hope this video helped. It's only a few more weeks now and you're going to be done with all of this, and you can have summer to look forward to. So it's really about the last couple pushes now. I know you can do it. Just really lock in for these last couple weeks and you'll be done. Thank you again for watching, and see you next week.